This is Tax Pro Nation, the home of independent tax professionals. Find community, maximize your earnings, and live life on your own terms. I'm your host, Jeff Dolan, Vice President of Pronto Tax School.
And I'm your co-host, Andy Fry, founder and CEO of Pronto Tax School.
As a tax professional, you take pride in giving the best service you can to every client you serve. Too often, your good work goes unnoticed. Too often, your story goes untold. No more. Unnoticed and Untold ends now. Welcome to Season 2, the Season of Story, where it's all about recognizing and appreciating you, the hardworking tax professionals that inhabit the mysterious land known as Tax Pro Nation.
In this episode, we're going to hear from Terre Crisman. She won the Positive Attitude Award in 2020 with our My Tax Career Story contest, and she transformed herself from a complainer into a positive person who lost 78 pounds, went skydiving, and sees the positive side of everything she can. This delightful conversation with Terre is an amazing thing to listen to. We can't wait to share it with you. Please stay tuned and let's jump in.
All right, so welcome to the next installment of the podcast, Tax Pro Nation, and we're on today's episode with Terre Crisman at Marty Davis Bookkeeping and Accounting, one of our best Pronto Tax School members, one of our story contest winners. And remember, on this Season 2 of Tax Pro Nation, we're highlighting the stories of tax professionals, the different things that we went through to get into the business, that we go through in the business, and just being able to highlight some of the experiences that we have in this very unusual business. So Terre, thanks so much for joining us. What's your way to stay sane doing this kind of work and seeing some of the client, and different challenges that come up? What's your secret?
Well, I think my secret is probably just having a good attitude about my customers or towards my customers, and really taking the time to listen to what's going on with them and trying to figure out the best way that I can serve them and give them the best experience and the most positive attitude and the best tax savings that I can give them, which includes, educating myself and doing some tax planning and helping them actually realize there is a joy in actually doing your taxes and not being such a negative experience.
Yeah, because that's something that we do fall into sometimes as tax professionals. I know myself, I feel like sometimes I get kind of cranky and just like complaining a lot. And I know it is something that happens a lot in our industry. You can get kind of burned out. And so I think what you were saying in your story contest submission, Terre, is that you really made a decision at a certain point that you were going to be that positive force in your client's life. And maybe before you hadn't made that decision. So what was that transition like to decide to be more positive?
Well, it's funny. I had been kind of falling into that rut of, being burnt out and not really caring as much and just feeling like I was doing everybody a favor for letting them see me. And so I had lost a bunch of weight. And I decided to go skydiving, which was a lifelong dream. And the guy that was skydiving with me, he was, it was like probably his 1,000th jump in his life, and I asked him, I said, do you like the job? And he just kind of looked at me, he says, he goes, I do like my job. He said, but today's not about me, it's about you. And he goes, and thank you for letting me share your experience with you. And, and it just really, and he was like upbeat the entire time. And made me feel like this was not his first jump, but his best jump. And, and it went through just the whole experience from start to finish was just, he was just really upbeat. And I realized that time that, my customers come in and they don't want to see if I'm having a bad day. They don't want to care about that. They just want to have a good experience. And you know what I mean? It just made me realize that it's not about me. It's about them. And it's about, what I can do for them and, and to be grateful that they're there. And, they want my experience and my knowledge, but they don't want to know that my life is not going as planned that day. They just want. So, it was kind of a thing where I had forgotten what customer service was really about. And at that point, I just decided that it was going to be, I was either going to change my attitude or I was going to be going out of business because there's millions of other people that have the same knowledge and experience that I have. So what could I do to be different or be special? And that was my transformation, was just to realize that my customers are special to me. I mean, a lot of them I've known for many, many, many years. They're, and I didn't appreciate them. And now I really do. Especially during the pandemic, it was really an eye opener to realize that, a lot of people went other places because I wasn't available for a couple of weeks. And I thought, that's crazy. That's just insane. So I had to make that change to actually be more aware of, that you have to be available. You have to make accommodations. You have to do what you have to do to make your customers, realize that you care about them and, you're there for them.
Wow. Yeah, that's super powerful, Terry. So it sounds like you kind of had a journey towards humility as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I thought, I know as much as I can know, and I knew we have our continuing education and, no offense to Pronto or anything, but they don't really go back and look at the stuff the tax laws that really help our customers, because they only have to do the continuing stuff that's new and upcoming. And there's stuff in the tax laws that help people all the time, but and then the tax laws were written to help them, not hurt them. We just don't know about it because we haven't gone back and checked and looked and read and educated ourselves.
Yeah, just making the connection between the technical knowledge of things that we're learning, tax changes, but to actually connect that to real clients, real people, and say, how does that affect Jim? How does that affect Terry? How does that affect Jeff? How does it affect Andy? And start to apply that client service attitude. I mean, that's kind of the magic of what the top tax pros like Terry do. And I know, Terry, sometimes with your business name, Marty Davis Bookkeeping and Tax Service, that some people actually call you Marty from time to time, and you don't even necessarily correct them because you're just like, oh, well, they're giving me business anyway, so let me just let them have a good experience. But how is the business name different than your name, and how does that play into your career?
Well, Marty was she was my mentor, and she was she basically I left the business in her name because she was a legacy and it's well known here in Bakersfield. And she's been in business for like 35 years or something.
Nice.
And so, I know, and I don't think I could answer the phone any other way anyway. It's just how that is. But when people call me Marty, I just kind of laugh at them and I tell them, oh, it's okay. I've been called worse, and kind of laugh about it. It doesn't bother me anymore. I just kind of go with the flow. And
I like it.
When people realize that they're calling me a different name, they're like, oh, wait a minute, you're not Marty. And I just kind of laugh at them. That's all right. Call me what you will, but just as long as you call me, that's okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it helps you carry on that legacy that your mentor built up. And what was that relationship like you mentioned that Marty was mentoring you and you had a lot of respect for her. How did she help you along your career path?
Well, for one, actually, it's funny. We talked about how did I decide the tax business was a good fit for me. And really, I didn't choose this career. It kind of chose me because Marty was my landlord before she was my boss. And I had gotten a little behind my rent. And so she came to me a couple of days after Christmas one year and she said, I'm either going to have to kick you out of my house or give you a job. She says, it's up to you. And I was like, when do I start? And so, that's how I kind of started in the business. And then she was grooming me to take over for her, which I had no idea that she was doing that. But she just kind of slowly taught me a little bit here and there until she got me comfortable doing taxes. And then the rest is kind of history, and I found out I was pretty good at it. So, I've stuck to it. That's been 20 years ago. But she taught me she was my moral compass, and she taught me not to do my best and to always, do the best I can for a client without lying or cheating. And that was, something that growing up, if you don't have that person to teach you that, becomes like almost second nature. And I sadly, I came from a background where my mom was not, she was not the most honest person. I loved her to death, but, she would cheat on her taxes if she could. And that was something that, I just never really thought anything about. Marty told me, she says, you can't do that. And there's no reason to. And as long as you tell the truth, you have nothing to worry about. I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. But, it was then not something that I really thought I would be good at or anything. She saw it in me and she says, I'm going to teach you, and then, you can do what you want with it. And then when she retired, I bought the business from her a couple of years later, and then I was doing her taxes before she passed away. So kind of turn of events there. But yeah, it was kind of weird.
So you got into the tax business because you got behind on your rent, and that's how you went in. And did she get any other employees like that? I mean, was that like a common recruiting tactic? Did you have any other coworkers that have the same story as that? That's pretty crafty. I mean, that's like a crafty OG business owner move. Like this lady seems smart, and she's behind on her rent, and it's almost January. I need some labor. Why don't I put two and two together
whatever
here?
It took.
Yeah, that's the name of the game.
I'm so grateful to her because it wasn't just about that. She became one of my dearest friends, and she was kind of a replacement mother for me because my mom had passed away. Actually, she passed away the year that I met Marty. And
wow.
So she was just she became my mother without realizing that she was. But yeah, she was a good person. She was very dry in her humor. And there was times that I was ready to just say screw it and walk away. And, because she was not the easiest person to work with, but I stuck with it because I knew that she could teach me stuff that I would have never known before. And now I have made a career out of it. And it's been a good thing. I've made a lot of money doing it and had interesting experiences and met a lot of people, and I wouldn't do anything else. I don't think I could do anything else now.
What were you doing before you had that transition?
Let's see. What was I doing before? I was a taxi cab driver, and I worked I managed a Goodwill for a few months, or about 6 months, and then I was being a bum and living off my husband's paycheck and getting behind on my rent.
It sounds like she saw some potential in you in some way, and even was kind of recruiting you in a way to become part of her business. And sometimes it's strange, right? And how life works that way sometimes. I mean, with her passing away the same year that your mom passed away, I mean, just those things that sometimes feel like too much of a coincidence. And then to have this special relationship with Marty of mentoring you all these years, and now being the owner and operator of her business, really, a great part of your career. And I think very interesting for other members. If someone hasn't had that experience, Terry, of being kind of going under someone's wing, that they really respect and learning the kind of things that you learned. If I haven't had that experience yet, and I feel like that's kind of missing from my tax career, what would be your advice to like be able to find somebody like that? Just get behind in your rent?
Be a really bad painter.
Because a lot of people can meet that criteria right now.
When Marty had retired, she asked me, she says, "Are you ready to take over for me? Take over my job?" And I said, "Well, yeah, but who's going to take over my job?" And I realized at that point that, I know that, the first year that I was there, I was already calling it our office. And so that was just kind of my, my take on it. And I don't know if she realized that or not. I'm sure she probably did, and I just didn't recognize it either. But, it was always, I took it in under my own power that I could do do as much as I could to learn the business and be good at it. But, finding that person to replace me has not been an easy journey. It's been, I'm still kind of looking I think I'm going to have to get 2 people to replace me. I was that good.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, you are.
And it's, I have somebody that's training for, taking some classes and seeing how they're going to do. But, I'm not holding my breath because, I've been trying to find somebody for 15 years. And, I have one good person that she works the bookkeeping and the payroll part of the business. And she's really good, but she has absolutely zero interest in doing taxes. And, I don't blame her. It's kind of daunting that, she just doesn't want to do it, which is fine because she concentrates on the stuff that I don't have time to.
Right.
I had written down some advice that, there's 3 pieces of advice. Keep looking for ways to help your clients save money, not just through continuing education and tricks and strategies and stuff that are on the books and that people don't realize that are there. There's so much stuff that we don't even realize that we can do to help, but it takes planning. You got to do that months ahead of time, and you can't start planning retroactively. When you're in that year, it's too late to plan for that tax year. So got to look at the old stuff, and then also, and don't make people wait. You got to make sure that they know that their time is as valuable as yours. And then the next one, of course, last but not least, is to not undervalue your fees for the customers, because customers are going to come with you, and if they only choose you because you charge the least, they're going to go somewhere else as soon as somebody else charges less. So, if you develop good customers and, you value, you make sure that they value your service as well. and you're a good value to them and you save them money, you know, they'll stick with you forever.
Yep. And I think too, you listening, like truly listening, helps in that process as well. Because when you truly listen to somebody, you know what they're all about and you know what they're after, like you know what they want. And then when you're doing the planning, looking forward for them, you actually can put together a plan that gets them what they want instead of a cookie cutter, just, oh yeah, I do this for everybody.
Yeah, because people, you know, they want to tell their story. I mean, you have to ask the right questions and you have to hear their answers. I mean, you have to, if you're not listening, if you're not doing that interview, you're not giving them the best service they can get, you know?
Yeah, just like that skydiving instructor. I mean, I love that. I love getting inspired by seeing another business owner or somebody that's a professional that's really has that level of professionalism and enthusiasm and gratitude for what we actually get to do. And I think, like you said, Terry. You like that? You like that? I'll be available all day. But the seeing in the pandemic, right, with all these job losses and all people losing their businesses in a lot of cases or having their revenue of their business decline, like, you know, restaurants. Some of these stories that we're hearing right now, especially you working with a lot of business clients, Terry, they're not easy to hear, right? I mean, it's people in pain. As a tax professional, as an accounting professional, and being there to listen to these people, it's got to be pretty tough, right?
Oh my gosh, I know at least probably a handful, two handfuls of people that are struggling so hard just to stay in business. I mean, they're using the PPP loans if they got their applications in time, and they're using the economic impact,
the EIDL loans,
you know,
right?
Yeah, the ideal, and that's only if they found, you know, they were actually eligible and blah blah, you know. And there's so many people that, I mean, people were scrambling to get their Schedule C's done so that they could get them into the to the SBD or SBC. And there was just so many things going on. And then using up their life savings, and, you know, just people are just going crazy. There's a lot of people that are getting the loans and still going out of business, and they're using up their life savings and still going out of business. They can't survive it. But there's other people that are, you know, making these little changes and, you know, and asking for help, you know, like from the taxpayers and stuff, to actually help them figure out what they can do to, you know, just to hang on and, you know, and make it last. And there's a lot of stuff we could do to help these people. There, you know, just by being there, like I said, listening and helping them get their paperwork together, and helping them understand what they have to do afterwards to get the loan forgiveness stuff. You know, and there's just so much that has to be done. And if we would take the time just to and I offer the services. Unfortunately, this is probably one of my downfalls. I offer the services and don't charge enough for that part of it. But I figure that they're gonna be back and they're gonna tell their friends, and that's what's happened really. There, you know, I've had a lot more business because people have said, "Oh, go to Terry. She will help you do this and help you, you know, get this together." And so I picked up a lot of business that way. Even throughout the pandemic, I've been busier and busier, which is surprising to me, I guess, because I didn't really think that was going to be possible. I didn't even know that we were actually essential workers until probably 2 weeks into the quarantine.
And then I've learned a lot.
This is crazy. Why do I want to go back to work? You know, but
yeah, well, I think a lot of tax professionals this tax season and this year, Terry, is that we've actually realized that we're actually pretty important to a lot of people, right? Like, you know, because there's a self-esteem aspect, right? Like it's to where I think for a time, especially as people have been moving to TurboTax, it's like, oh, you know, I can't. You start to kind of feel bad and like question your worth at certain times. But I think this year, I feel like the pendulum has kind of swung to the other side for the top level professionals like Terry that are actually going the extra mile for people. I mean, have you noticed kind of, especially with your positive attitude, like more gratitude coming your way and kind of like better client relationships overall?
Oh, absolutely. People notice, you know, right away that, you know, because they're always expecting you to have a bad attitude and expecting you to be upset like everybody else, like the whole world is. Everybody's, you know, trying to get through it. And they come in and I'm just like, you know, they're going, well, what are you so happy about? I'm like, oh, I'm just happy to be here. You know, happy to be alive. I'm happy you're here. What can I do for you? You know, and they people pick up on that and they notice it. You know, it's a good experience out of all the ones that they've had, where people are snatching toilet paper out of their hands and, or saying, you know what I mean? It's just, it's crazy. I mean, everybody's fighting over gloves and hand sanitizer and
wear a mask.
I've got the mask on. I'm like, you can wear one, you don't have to wear one, whatever. But, most people are pretty cautious about that. And I'm telling I just tell them, just don't cough. Wait, let me cough first.
It's definitely awkward if you're like wrangling over some toilet paper at Walmart with somebody and then you realize they're your client. It's like, oh man,
sounds like a story that you need to share there.
This is unprofessional. I don't know who's more unprofessional in this.
As a bonus.
What do you think because you've already had such great experiences in the business and learned so much and been able to be a positive influence on so many clients, Terry, what are you most looking forward to about this upcoming tax season and just kind of as you continue to grow your business?
Well, I think I'm looking forward to just seeing people again and actually seeing faces again, hopefully. I'm assuming that like the government's planning the pandemic to end on December 31st. So, looking forward to that.
Definitely.
If it doesn't happen, of course, I'm actually now set up to do video interviews. And, I think people are probably going to be evolving to that. And so, we have to evolve to that too. But I think I'm just looking forward to just helping people through the next phase of the pandemic. And what I am a little worried about is all these people that have lost their jobs and, what are they going to be looking, or just barely getting back to work, and they're going to have to face that paying the Social Security tax themselves if they have participated in that, which I think is a nightmare. I mean, I can't believe that it's even happening. All my payroll customers have actually declined to participate in that. Because their employees they're talking about minimum wage employees. How are they supposed to make or pay double next year? I don't know. Moving forward, I'm just looking forward to just evolving and changing with the times because things are always changing. You always have to evolve and do better and do more and be faster. And I think I'm up for the challenge.
Yeah, I was in a restaurant the other day and the owner was saying that he shut down like 2 different locations and he was down to 1. And, in our conversation, he was basically saying that all his plans were gone and he had to hit reset. So like everything that he had ever planned about retiring or doing, passing things on to his children or whatever, he just had to hit the reset button and just start over again and say, okay, what is my plan? What am I going to do now that everything's changed? And so I think there's a lot of people like him that are looking for tax professionals and financial planners and people that can really kind of guide somebody from that reset moment of life has changed and my future has changed. Yeah.
Can you imagine? I can't even imagine what the future looks like now because the pandemic has changed everything. It really, really has changed. I mean, look at all the businesses that will never come back, like movie theaters for one, or gyms. They might come back, but they'll never be the same. Not like they used to be. And just the social meeting, social networking and that kind of stuff. I mean, we had I sit on the board of the North River Chamber of Commerce, and we had our first actual luncheon that we've had in 6 or 8 months or so. Last week, and people, there wasn't very many people there, Grant, but people were just so chomping at the bit just to get back out there and try to find some normalcy. And and it's just really, it's nothing. We were sitting outside, for goodness sakes, outside of the restaurant, and which I thought was just really bizarre. There was flies everywhere, and I thought, I think I'm going to invent something that drives flies away. That might be the next bestseller.
That's a good business.
But the thing about it is, I think for the future is just finding a better way to connect with people and to make their experience special every time, and to try to find some way to help them that's beyond what we normally do, which the tax planning, I think, is my focus now anyway. Since you have to reset anyway, you can start from scratch and build a better plan next time.
Right.
Not something that's pandemic proof, but, something that, since you have to start over anyway, let's start out right. Some people just start kind of by the seat of their pants, or they inherit a business like I did, and, or something to that effect. And, now we have a chance to actually start over and rebuild and build it better, build it, right.
Yeah. And I think definitely the small business owners that are coming out of this, really doomsday scenario as far as business. I mean, like, I can't think of anything like people having to shut down their businesses and not, having revenue plummet, 99% or even 100% in some cases, basically overnight. I mean, it's hard to think of anything more difficult than that as a small business owner. At the same time, I think that there's, like in Q3 of 2020 is actually the highest ever recorded new business formation.
Really?
Yeah, it was over 1.6 million employer ID numbers were filed. That's the highest that they've ever tracked, and It was actually up 77% versus Q2.
Seriously.
So as you have people like that are looking at, it's going to be interesting for you, Terry, in the sense that you're kind of keeping an eye out for somebody that may work in your business, right? Because you're actually continuing to get busier and busier, and you're in demand for your higher expertise services, or maybe you don't need to do some of the legwork that you can delegate to others. But what are the businesses that are doing well right now? Like, how do you power those businesses to do even better? Because that's where a lot of the growth needs to come from. Because like, if it's kind of like Terry looking at the thing, the glass half full, right? Because we could look at the businesses that are never going to be the same and are crippled and are, probably aren't going to be great businesses. But then you got to look at all the other businesses that are growing and are doing fantastic. And so when you have the skill set that somebody like Terry has, or that person that's growing their income aggressively, they need tax planning. Powering those people is really, I feel like, is going to help everybody, right? And so is that something that you're seeing in your business, Terry?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, definitely. There are people that are, like you said, they're making, the businesses that are thriving, such as like, there's like solar businesses that are going crazy, and people, home-based services that are really exploding right now. I mean, there's some businesses that were not crippled at all. And as a matter of fact, they got much better after the pandemic. And, and they're finding, I'm finding that they're making a lot more money than they're used to. And they're going, well, what are we supposed to do with all the money? And fortunately, I have kind of grew my clients to when they do have tax questions, just to pick up the phone and call me and ask the questions. And then, so I'm trying to respond to that by saying, well, we have other things we can do now, so that you can keep some of that money and not have to pay it all to the government next year, and not be surprised when it kind of hits. And and that's what a lot of people do. They make all this money, and then they're going, oh, well, what do you mean I have to pay taxes on this? And it's like, well, if you'd picked up the phone and called me, we could have talked about different strategies that you can do, and so people are realizing that they can't just go out and make millions of dollars and expect to just keep all that money. Because a lot of people, they really think that that's what it's about. They'll have to pay a certain amount of taxes, and they're going to go on and they're going to be billionaires. And the billionaires pay taxes too.
Yeah, and also, Terry, right, to be able to provide opportunities for your team, for your employees, for your community. I mean, I think people that have these businesses that are doing well, it's always good to encourage them to continue to think in that way, because, it really is, as our economy continues to shift, we need those entrepreneurs that have growing businesses to continue growing them. And obviously, as tax professionals and accounting professionals, having them have more funding, and keep more money to be able to do that. I mean, it's really in everybody's best interest.
Right, absolutely. And it takes, you got to have a good team, and you have to take care of your employees. That's the thing, you have to take care of them and show them that they are a part of the team, and that they make you money if you treat them right, and they stick with you. I mean, I know from experience that you cannot train somebody and they're not loyal to you. You just train somebody for somebody else.
What was the number? 1.6 million?
Right.
So, I mean,
that's 3 months too.
I'm guessing a lot of the people that are starting those businesses are people that were employees, right? And don't have a job anymore, and that are saying, hey, I'm going to start this home-based business, or I'm going to start this online IT business, or whatever, right?
Yep.
And so a lot of those people coming from corporate America or being employed, they're not going to understand the other side of being an entrepreneur at all. And so come next year for tax season, they're going to just have a rude awakening and be waking up and saying, oh my goodness. Because I mean, I don't know how many people I've talked to online where they're like, I started my, Shopify store and I'm selling all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, you got to pay sales and use tax on that like every month. They're like, do what?
What's that now?
I don't even know what that is. What did you just say? Like,
They don't know what to do if they even got off the ground, especially with the online businesses. Oh my word. I probably met 20 people that have started a Shopify. Is that what you call it? Yeah.
Yep.
And, they have no idea what to do. They've spent all this money. Actually, it was the money they got either from like unemployment, because they got a, $12,000 check, and they spent $3,500 to start this business that never even got off the ground because they don't have anything special to sell or to offer people. On people starting printing businesses and this. I'm going, you know how many printers there are in town? There's probably 5,000 of them that I could think of right off the top of my head. At least. And they're thinking that, well, they're going to make a difference. I said, well, what makes you special? What makes you, what's so special about what you do that this other Joe Blow down the street does, same thing? How are you going to stand out? Oh, I didn't think about that.
My favorite is the what they call the Robin Hood kids. So all these people that got laid off got their stimulus checks, and now they're trading, and they have no idea.
Stock trading?
Yeah, stock trading. They have no idea about the tax rules around that. So they're buying and selling, not in their retirement account, just out in their commercial account. And so, I think this whole pandemic is really going to create a bunch of people that are needing tax professional help.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then, for the tax professional, you have to know what to do to help the people. You have to know the laws, and you have to know the rules and the I don't want to call them loopholes, because I think loopholes kind of imply that you're doing something that you found a way around tax law to take advantage. And that's not really what we do. We have to know what the rules are, what the laws are, and then help them follow those rules and still come out on top, which is not the easiest thing to do, but it's needed. And we have to have that knowledge and anticipate what's coming up, which, like you said, all these people that are going to be having a rude awakening because they owe all these taxes if they were successful in their selling business. But I know so many people had just like taken their stimulus checks and their unemployment checks and they bought motorhomes and they bought boats and they bought, I'm thinking, do you realize that you're supposed to have, you're going to need money next month to live on, when you're still not going to have a job? And, people, now they're out, trying to do these silly things. And, I think it's creating more criminals. And, it's just really, people are not realizing that this pandemic's not going to be over just because the end of the year comes around.
What's the mortgage deferment, or what's the name there, where they're pushing the payments back?
The deferrals, is that what they're called? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a nightmare.
You've ever heard of?
Yeah. So then they have to owe all that all of a sudden?
Well, I don't know. I heard that they were going to put it to the end of the mortgage. That's what I thought they were going to do, but which makes more sense than to actually make them pay double payment next year or something, which, I don't know.
Well, and also, yeah, and also, Terry, good luck for the banks getting that money, right? Because you can't, if somebody doesn't have the cash flow, or, as anybody that started out a business knows, the first little bit, you either losing money or barely getting by. So, these new businesses are not all going to be raking it in by any means. But I think just mentioning those kind of topics that started to create some of this anxiety for next tax season, I actually started sweating. I was like, oh no, I'm going to have all these 1099Bs that are like...
The landlords that had, deferred
yes,
rent, collecting their rent.
Right.
And, I don't understand, because I do have a house that a rental house that Marty left me when she passed away. And luckily my tenants, which happened to be friends of mine, they did not want to get behind on the rent. So they continued to pay the rent throughout, which is a blessing. And I thought about, what about these landlords that have not been able to collect rent? What are they going to do? Well, and there is nothing they can do about it, because, you can actually use it to your advantage, because it's rent that you were not able to collect and you still had to make those payments. And, so there is an advantage to it, but you have to, use it right. Of course, you have to have other passive income for it to count against, but, that's a whole nother story. But, people don't realize that they're never going to, like you said, they're never going to collect that money from the person that's barely getting by paying rent now. If they're paying their rent, how are they going to catch up with that ever? I don't get that program. I don't understand how they could even make that work at all.
As a tax professional, is it your opinion that those are good opportunities to go after, or are you more wanting to find the people that are being successful to help them be more successful, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, they have this little rule called carryback losses.
Yep.
And so, you can, a lot of people don't, especially the tax people I've met in my community that don't, they're young and they come right out of their H&R Block school and they think they know it all, and they really don't. They know how to prepare a tax return, but they don't know what they can do to utilize the losses to carry those back to recover some of the taxes that have been paid already. And then the people with tons of money, they've got things that they need to do with it that they're not aware of, because they've been only mildly successful. Now they're usually successful, and that's a tough question to answer, really, because I want to help everybody. I want to help the hugely successful. I want to help the people that are hurting financially, and that's my goal, is to really find ways to help everybody and help everybody do well and make it through, and hopefully they'll find that they can't live without me. And I'll tell a friend.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the only natural conclusion. And I just wanted to kind of recognize you as well for all the contributions that you make to the Pronto Tax School community. I mean, there's been many times where people are heckling me in the webinar chat rooms and stuff like that, and you're always a positive person, and I think people really learn a lot from you and look up to you with your experience and just with your positive attitudes. I think you are making a big difference, and it's people, you really notice it a lot, when times are tough, of what people's character is, and whether they really care about other people. And so I think you just been an amazing example of that, and we really appreciate it. And I know your clients do as well, most of them at least. Hopefully all of them.
I was really touched. I was really, really touched when you called me out like that. That was, I was not expecting it, but I appreciate the fact that some people, I know I transformed myself and just my attitude in general, but I would still like to heckle you though, so you'll have to look forward to that.
You have to heckle just to keep it real. There still needs to be some heckling happening that helps me get better. But it's been quite a year, and I think just getting through it together has been awesome. Anything else, Jeff, that you wanted to? Feel like we touched on a lot of different subjects. We got a chance to start looking towards next tax season, actually, which is just around the corner. So that kind of spurred a few thoughts for me about client situations and different things like that. Anything else that you wanted to add or touch on?
No, thank you, Terry. This has been a wonderful conversation. We really enjoyed it, and
Me too.
I know that you've encouraged our listeners to stay positive, listen to to their customers' needs, and put them first. So thank you for exemplifying that as a tax professional.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Terry. You have a good one. We'll see you soon.
You too. All right. Take care.
Take care. Bye.